What's up, guys and dolls, dudes and dudettes, vegans and cannibals? This is Talking with Burritos, the podcast that's giving you something to talk about when you want to talk about the horror movies that came out in 2017. I can almost say, as of right now, there are no other horror movies in slate to debut either streaming or on the big screen. So we could basically narrow this down right now. And so every year I like to do this. Well, last year we started this with the State of Fear edition of Talking with Burritos, where we go in and we just talk about our favorite movies, horror movies of the year, and some of yesteryear. This year we're gonna talk about my 5 favorite horror movies, and also delve into my favorite Friday the 13th horror movie. That would be Dream Warriors. No, not Dream Warriors. That was the other one. That would be Jason Part 7. Friday the 13th Part 7? That's one of my favorites. We're going to be talking about that one. And also, we're going to be going into and talking about the news. This, that, and other news. I'm going in with some cryptids and some news about gargoyles and that Oklahoma City jet that hit something that they said was a bird, but I don't think it was. Some lady is making Bigfoot juice, and also like a whole group of monkeys had a heart attack for no damn reason. Let's get started with this episode. If you guys haven't subscribed, go over to talkingwithburritos.com/subscribe, and there you can find links to apps and other places where you can download podcasts. Not just this podcast, but you can download other podcasts. Like, speaking of which, my boy Chris Rupel, who helped found this podcast, he's over there doing his thing with his fellas, with his girlfriend, and they're recording episodes and they're going strong. They're going strong over there. Talkingwithburritos.com/subscribe, and you can find links to any of your favorite podcast or new podcasts that you want to find over there. Thank you in advance, and let's start the show. Okay, let's talk about the golden age of horror movies. The golden age of horror movies is a span of time between I think 1920s into the 1960s, where Hollywood really focused on introducing audiences to characters that were unlike the characters that they were seeing on television today. At that time, no westerns, no detectives, nothing of that. It's to offer them something different, to prey upon their fantasies and their imaginations. And with this, they created. They released movies. They showed movies like Werewolf, Dracula, The Bride of Frankenstein, and what's another one? The Creature from the Black Lagoon. So they really were able to focus on that. And they really emphasized the horror movie during that time and just expanded it out and giving people what they wanted. And it was in a time where I think Hollywood wasn't declining, but I think they were looking for something new. They were looking for something to keep the cogs of the wheel rolling. And I feel that's kind of what is going on with horror movies today. They're a bit of the cog that gets ignored when there's something else out there better to trump it, when there's another trend going on, such as your comic book movie trend, or when we had young adult novels. When you have Harry Potter, you had the Mockingjay series, and what's another one? Insurgent, Divergent. You had all these different things. They were basically adapting teen material based on teen books. And I think the horror movie at that time got pushed aside. People just started ignoring it because they always get pushed aside. Horror movies always get pushed aside until someone else comes around and invents something better. Such as, let's say around the 60s and 70s, you have all these kind of camp movies coming out during that time, horror movies, and from the 50s to the 60s, and when you enter into the 70s, you have such movies as Jaws enter into the spectrum, and Aliens, and all this really changed the landscape of horror movies at that time when they were starting to dwindle and go out of people's favor. So horror movies will always stay around because they're viable, and they're cheap to make, which isn't to say to discourage or to demean anyone or to less credit someone's work in that avenue, but they have always been easier to make because you can just put two people in a room and you can make a horror movie. We can go make a horror movie right now, me and you, or just me. I can make a horror movie by myself. Back when Lights Out came out, these two directors, this director and his wife filmed that short movie in their apartment. And then he was able to get a motion picture out of it, working with James Wan. And then he went on to, I think he did Annabelle Creation as well. So horror movies are always there as a crutch to lean on when Hollywood is suffering. In its time, when it's suffering, when it's limping on that one leg, it has the horror movie to lean upon. And the way the horror movies usually comes into question is by innovating, making things different. Just like when I said about this 1970s when Jaws and Aliens came, you had Jaws, a movie about a shark that didn't show the shark. Boom. You don't have a creepy monster. You don't have somebody in a rubber suit. You had Jaws. You had a shark in the water just terrorizing 3 people on a boat. And to take Alien, a sci-fi horror movie which was which was in space. And it's like, whoa, this hasn't been done before. Usually the aliens come to Earth. We don't go and find the aliens. They come to us. So it usually happens with innovation. And you're starting to see that now. And the one movie that set the precedence for this, because before, let's say, before February this year, you had Resident Evil come out, which is kind of like a horror thriller, right? But yet it's action. You had Underworld, horror thriller, but it's action. But then you come out with this movie called Get Out. And it just floors everyone because it was just a good movie, a well thought out film that told a story that people could relate to. Why? Because it was fervent in the media, and it was fervent in the media, and we heard about it. We heard about these stories of oppression, of black on cops and police violence, and all these different people being pulled over by cops and losing their lives. We had all this social commentary going on at the time that was the perfect moment for that movie to come out because it was socially relevant. And you see that they told a story. They didn't focus on trying to just horrify you. The horrifying nature of the film was within the context in which it was framed. So it was just, that's why that is the top, critically applauded movie of 2017. Horror movie, at least. It's among, actually, not even just the horror movies. It's, I think, among one of the applauded movies this year. Get Out. And it's a horror movie. When most people in studios discredit horror movies, they just think, oh, a horror movie. Well, let's just look over that. That's not going to make us any money. But return on investment. This movie was made for like $9 million. It grossed $400 million. The movie did well. No, I think not 400. That's it. It did like 130 something million on like a $9 million budget. So that's return on investment, like quadruple something. So now with Get Out and the success of Get Out, and you fast forward to September, you have the success of It. They say now that this is the golden age of horror movie part 2. Why? Because there's a resurgence. I would say part 3, due to the fact that, from the 1940s to the 1920s to the 1960s, you had that period of movie releases, horror movie releases that were popular. Then it kind of died out. And then in the 1970s, you had another surge. It was short-lived in the 70s because it came later around the 1970s, 75s. I think about 75 to like 82. And then from there on, studios released horror movies, but they just weren't great. And they weren't as applauded as some of those earlier movies. You have earthquake and your natural disaster movies, things like that. They weren't necessarily popular because you had other streams. You have action movies coming out now, action comedies. You had different genres of movies now that people had to choose from. But back in the day, you had westerns, you had romance, and you had horror movies. But towards in the 80s, you had more sci-fi themes and action movies because they were able to do more with the cameras, and they became more versatile in their filmmaking and their filmmaking techniques and applying more techniques. So horror movie underneath was always there. It just didn't perform as well as some of these big blockbusters. But you can also take into consideration that around that time, they started building more theaters. So the theater chain started putting more theaters, more movie houses in different cities, in more cities. And so what does that do? It makes it more accessible to potential moviegoers, and you make more money. So there's a lot of things to put into that you can associate with the success of movies other than horror movies. A lot of time, during that time, horror movies became like camp. They became something that you watch with friends. You release on VHS, and it's like, oh look, we can go get this movie and have fun watching it. But they weren't that great. Culturally, cult-wise, around those genres, it really was popular because people liked to watch them in their home because VHS and watching movies at home became a thing, and so that's when you saw a lot of the smaller titles go to VHS, which would make them cult classics later on. So now, so I would say yes, we're in another golden age of horror movies, just based on the amount of movies that are coming out that are doing something different, saying something different, and aren't full of just jump scares. So, among the movies released in 2017, you have Mother, Happy Death Day, that's recently, Get Out, Annabelle Creation, Jeepers Creepers 3, Raw, A Dark Song, The Invitation, Black Coat's Daughter, Split, Rings, Life, Alien Covenant, 47 Meters, and the top grossing horror movie ever, It. Now, my top 5. We have all those movies released. Some of them were released independently and then bought out by Netflix and showed on Netflix and or Amazon. So VOD or streaming services. And the others just didn't perform well because they just weren't good movies. i.e. Rings and Life. Just not good movies as far as it was just pretty much the same thing. Rings just did this jump scare thing, and they didn't really bring much of the terror from the first movie. They could not reciprocate that from the first movie in those sequels, period. I don't know why they keep trying to make them. And Life was just aliens. Seriously. Like, did anyone watch that? It was just aliens. They're stuck on a cruise ship with a foreign thing that they tried to capture, and now all of a sudden that thing is trying to eat them. That was aliens. It was so weird. If you watch it, it's like, wow, am I just watching a different version of Aliens? It's like, how did y'all film this and get this released? Which it performed horribly at the box office. Due to the lack of it not being original. Okay. It had a great cast, though, but just not a good movie. So my top 5. let's go with my top 5. I'm going to give it to you. You might think, like, what the hell? I don't get this. This is stupid. My top 5. Mother. Raw. It. Get Out. And Happy Death Day. So, let's go into Mother. My top choice. I wanted to name Mother my top choice. It was a big Hollywood release. And I think that movie cost a lot of money. However, I want to give it to Mother because it totally freaked me out. It was one of those movies where you watched it, it's like, what the hell is going on here? Why are they beating this woman? What's going on? It really questioned me. And then it had moments where it put me on the edge of my seat and made me cringe because the visual was just so striking and horrifying in that moment, and they just kept hitting you, pounding you. It wasn't all about, oh, let's see, I'm gonna go walk across, I'm gonna walk, oh, there's something right there, scare. No, there wasn't that. No jump scares. It was just, look, this is horrifying. Watch it. It's horrifying. Watch it. You look at it, and it's like, I want to not look away, but this is so captivating, but yet it's horrifying. And that movie, a movie like that really makes you cringe, that's a horror movie, in my opinion. This one made me cringe, and it made me think. It made me want to discuss it afterwards. But yet, if you watch it, a lot of it was based on interpretation, and I'm gonna come out with an episode on this, I think. Yeah, I'll go on an episode on this, but right now I'll just touch on it. It was just a great movie to see, and it was truly horrifying imagery. So that's what really freaked me out about it, and that's why I say it's my number 1. Most people won't put theirs up there. They might have to Get Out up there because they enjoyed it. I did not enjoy this movie. I enjoyed it for its artistic integrity. Was it a great movie? No, but yet why? But why wasn't it a great movie? I don't know. But it made me think, and I can still think about it today. What makes it great? What makes it not so great in my eyes? And what the hell did it mean? So I'm going to, if it wasn't this movie though, if it wasn't Mother, it's going to be my top rated horror movie. And I want to emphasize horror in that title, in that category. That's the category, horror. All right. The next one will be Raw. Oh my goodness. This movie was so original. First of all, it was directed by a woman, which we see now coming up. We should see a surge of women directors directing horror movies coming up in the near future. Seriously. Because there are a few of them out there who are doing great things. But Raw is just a nice... I really want to watch it again because I loved it so much. It was so original. Where you have this girl who is a vegetarian. She's been told that she's allergic to meat. She's on a strict vegetarian diet. And someone, her sister, forces her to eat meat. And after she does, she basically goes on a bender. And she just craves meat. And she keeps craving meat to the point that it becomes cannibalism. And then you realize that, oh, there's a reason why she's a vegetarian. It was so beautiful. And the artistic nature of this film was so wonderful. Just, they have things that they did with the light, with the actual characters, the setting. It was beautiful. I love this film because it was entertaining. It was terrifying. It made me kind of cringe. When you see somebody eating another person's finger, that was just weird. But it was a great movie. I suggest that movie. If you're going to watch anything, if you come out of anything if you get anything from this episode, it should be to go and watch Raw. I'm going to go check it out again because I loved it that much. And my number 3 is It, because it was enjoyable. It wasn't horrifying to me. And I talked about this on a previous episode, but it just wasn't a horror movie. They didn't really embrace the horror of it all. But that's not a bad thing because they still told a great story. They told a great story, and I just enjoyed it.
It didn't scare me, but I enjoyed it and I know the context. So therefore I know what they were trying to do with it. So I would say it as number 3. Great movie, enjoyed it, but it just didn't horrify me. And Get Out. Get Out was horrifying because I'm a black man and I'm married to a white woman. No, it's not that, because I never really feared that much, except when I took her back home. But, my family is cool. A lot of people down south, they think that people look down on them if you bring like a white woman into a black household. And usually it's like the other way around. White households, usually if you bring like a black man to like your family get together, it's like, oh, all eyes on that black man. But my wife comes in there, she's okay with everyone, and my family embraces her. It's like, hey, how you doing? And stuff. She's like, and she's cool with it. There was no side eyes or anything like that. Nobody standoffish or in the corner eyeballing her. It was just family, which is kind of cool. So, but I know how it feels to be that black man going into your white girlfriend's home. And it's like, hello, Mrs. Whoever you are. Oh, I feel so uncomfortable here. Well, there's certain instances where we've been in that situation, and it's kind of creepy, and it's all about how the family embraces you. If there's no strife or no animosity towards you going in, then it's fine. But sometimes you just really don't know. So Get Out was great because of the horrifying nature of its social context, and plus it was original, and it was a great story. They told a great tale. How? Not with just horrifying you with jump scares. You watched as the story unraveled, and that captivated you and kept your interest in what was going to happen to these characters or this character. So number 5 would be Happy Death Day. Happy Death Day because I haven't seen a slasher movie like this in a bit. A la Scream type version. Where they take the horror movie tropes and they put it into a movie and they do it well. This one was rated PG-13, but I really enjoyed it due to the casting and how they told the story. It was just a well-told story about a girl who was basically experiencing her murder over and over again. She has a Groundhog Day type effect, where she has to figure out why and who is killing her to stop from waking up every day, to stop waking up every day on her death day. And if she doesn't, then doing so will eventually kill her. So I thought it was just well told. It was just a good darn movie. And a lot of these movies are by Blumhouse, are by these smaller studios, but yet you see a lot of the people are right now involved in it. You have A24, Blumhouse. Those two companies are really churning out a lot of these horror movies because now people are going to them, expecting them to do more for them. Once you start getting popular, your movies start making money, and then it's like, oh, that's cool. And I think that movie, Happy Death Day, was made for a small sum, and what did it do? It opened up and it beat out freaking Blade Runner. Go figure, right? So, again, my top 5 are Mother, Raw, It, Get Out, Happy Death Day. Now, and I do have an honorable mention, though. I have an honorable mention, Jeepers Creepers 3. Now, before you freak out, it's not like I did not know that this director, Victor Salva, was a pedophile. Or, accused pedophile, convicted pedophile. Which is kind of weird due to the nature of the Hollywood scene today. Everyone's coming out with allegations about sexual misconduct, sexual harassment. Just today, yesterday, I believe, Kevin Spacey came out like, okay, I'm sorry, apologizing to someone he accosted 14 years ago. It's like, and now he said, okay, he's coming out, and that which forced him to come out as gay. It's like, why did it have to take that, man? Why were you ashamed of yourself? Because you're Kev Spacey. People know you. It's not like they're gonna be like, oh, he's gay, let's not give him any roles. No, come on, you Kev Spacey. You've proven yourself to be that good. But is it me? Isn't it kind of weird he pulled a flip reversal of his role in American Beauty as someone who is repressed in his own sexuality, so he hides it? I'm not saying that he came out and angrily beat anyone over it or abused his family, but it's kind of weird how that played. That was his most successful movie that garnered him an Oscar, and now he is having to come back and try to defend himself of the same denial of self that his neighbor experienced in that movie. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But with all these allegations and everything going on right now in Hollywood, you have this fool, Victor Salva, who sexually abused someone like 20-something years ago. This dude, this young man, like maybe I think it was like 10 or 11, on his first movie, and he recorded it. He did bad things, but yet after that one movie, he made Powder. He made another movie after that, and then Jeepers Creepers, which went on to be successful. Jeepers Creepers was a successful horror movie at that time. And then, Jeepers Creepers 2, and I don't think he's made a movie. It's been 10 years or so since he's made another movie. 10 to 15 years since he's made another movie. And now he comes out with Jeepers Creepers 3. I guess he got some backing, and he was able to make this movie. Now, the thing I liked about this movie is that the guy, how perverted he has a vision for film. And he's creative with his filmmaking. And one thing I noticed, I watched Jeepers Creepers recently. That was the first one that started out my weekend of just watching horror movies. And I watched Jeepers Creepers, and it was actually a damn good movie. And it was well filmed, if you think about it. Oh my goodness. Just some of his shots and his lighting choices was awesome. So I can give him I can give him praise for that, but fuck him, because he's a little pervert. He's a big pervert, he's a disgusting man. And then this movie comes out, and I'm telling you all this because I did not know that before. So I'm not really praising the man. I guess I kind of am. I'm like, you have a good eye, but, fuck you. But Jeepers Creepers 3, it was a great little horror movie. Like, they had everything. They had the monster. You have the kids. And you have the weird town folk. You have the sheriff in the town, seeking redemption. You have some weird outfit coming from somewhere else to track down a monster. You have your mob mentality. He had everything in this movie that was synonymous with a horror film, with a great horror movie. So I really like that. Some shitty ass effects. And that's a good part of horror movies sometimes, is that they have crappy effects. But yet, they pulled it off, and it was actually entertaining. I thought I was going to walk in and be like, okay, it's the third movie. This is going to suck. Because if you watch Jeepers Creepers 2, was not a good film. But Jeepers Creepers 3 was actually a good film, but this dude is still horrible, so I can't put him on my actual 1 through 5. He's an honorable mention. So, not honorable, dishonorable mention. Hell, let's change that. My dishonorable mention for this episode is Jeepers Creepers, because I want to enjoy it, but I can't give this dude too much credit. Because he's still a child molester, and he really affected someone's life in a really, really bad way. So I must expunge myself on that. But do I say watch it? Yeah, if you like that movie, you can watch it. But you got to set aside. But I wouldn't pay for it. Let's put it like that. I didn't pay for that one either. But I wouldn't pay for it. But 2017, it might be the golden age of horror, but this is the year of the king. So if yesteryear was the year of James Wan, then 2017 is the year of the king. And we're talking about Stephen King. Talk about his adaptations. He has at least 5 adaptations of his works not in developed that were produced and released this year. Let's go with The Mist television series. You had Mr. Mercedes, another television series. Dark Tower, crap movie. They tried to put all like 8 books into one damn movie. Now, they are going to spin it off into a television program, a television series, which, think about this, see what they're doing. Long series, what's going off the air, Game of Thrones and some of these other shows. So they're going to look for something else to replace it with. And now you have Dark Tower. Don't know if it's going to be on cable, but you're going to see that. Because, it doesn't really have to show on cable. Cable just allows you to really go deep and, show nudity, sex, and all that other stuff. So, but this one, they don't really necessarily have to do that. It's just a possibility. So you have The Mist, Mr. Mercedes, Dark Tower, and recently Gerald's Game in 1922. Now my boss said Gerald's Game was good. It was a good adaptation, a good telling story, a good telling of the story within the book. Now Gerald's Game was a decent story, I believe. Some people, and I read a headline, they were like, horrible book, but good movie. So I don't know. I need to read that one. I would like to. Sounds interesting. All about a woman whose husband kidnaps her, takes her to a farm, and he dies, and then she has to try to get out of captivity, of her bondage. So you take into consideration. Great premise though. It's one of those closed-in sets. And then 1922. This one based on 1922 is recently, it came out like last week. Came out like a week ago, per the date of this podcast episode. And this basically is based on a short novella within his Stephen King's book of short stories called Full Dark, No Stars. Full Stars, No Dark. It's taken from that book about a man who kills his wife and then he has to reap the repercussions of doing so. But I'm not going to go into that movie, but I heard it was great. But this is the year of King and year of horror. And he has at least, what did they say, like 8 other adaptations of his work in the process. So you're looking to see some, especially in J.J. Abrams' project, a series coming out next year. And you see how this is happening. You're gonna have directors now taking a lot of their work and their vision to streaming media. Why? Because a lot of these people are giving them money to do just what they do. It's make film. Netflix has always been, one of those independent producer backers. It's like, okay, well, you said you want to make this movie, then here goes the money. Go ahead and make it. They're going to go acquire other properties. They want you to go make that for them. Netflix's thing right now is just building their catalog so that they don't need anyone else. So that's why you have people. So they're giving people their flexibility. They're giving people flexibility to just do their projects. Now, if it's not performing well, people are not streaming your stuff, since 8, they'll cancel it. But as far as movies are concerned, you get one and done. You get one and out. But, you have Steve Fincher. He just did a television series, Mindhunters. You have Martin Scorsese going to do something. I think you have J.J. Abrams, that Stephen King adaptation is going to go on Hulu, I believe. So you got a lot of people opening up this avenue for horror movies. And Netflix is just one of them that is bringing attention to some of these new directors who are the future of this industry, period. So for me, I think, so I'll give you 2 movies that were released independently. They were filmed at film festivals, and what a lot of these studios, just like Netflix and studios and Hulu, Amazon, they go to these premieres as well. They might try to premiere some of their movies. They're being widely accepted nowadays, but they also go and acquire other films. So you think about a studio like Warner Brothers, they go in and they see a movie like A Dark Song, and this Irish tale of this woman who wants, to get revenge or wants to see her son again. You go back and you see this movie, you watch it, and they don't buy it. Why? Because, they don't think it's going to make them money. So who comes in and swoops? Boom. You have Netflix. And what happens? Netflix gives them an audience. That movie becomes popular. in The Invitation, a woman who the Karen something, I forgot her last name. She directed. She was eating people or whatever. She did this movie, and for 9 years, this this director, she didn't make a movie for 9 years, and then she makes The Invitation. It premieres at certain venues, independent independent film houses, film festivals. It's showcased there, and what is happening? She gets picked up by Netflix, has her movie online, and it's, they don't share analytics or anything over there. So, but yet it's on top of their algorithm where it shows within your feed if you like horror movies. So it's right up there, and she's getting critical praise for it, which in turn will give you more attention, which in turn will do what? Give you more opportunities, especially if you're doing things for Netflix, such as the guy who, I don't know these people's names, the guy who directed Hush. It's a movie, the independent movie that was picked up by Netflix, showed on Netflix, did well. It's a horror thriller about a blind woman who is trapped in a house with her killer. So you have that movie, and what does he do? He goes on and he gets hired to direct what? 1922, a Stephen King novel. No, he directed Gerald's Game, which does well for Netflix, which is critically, a good film. So you have all these people getting opportunities from that, getting opportunities that they wouldn't get if Netflix or Amazon or Hulu wasn't around, because they just don't want to take a chance on some of those smaller outfits, some of those smaller directors or filmmakers, which you might see change with, Get Out and some of these other movies, Happy Death Day, it becoming famous or earning at the box office. And another one, which is my favorite, would be Raw. That's another independent that was picked up, that was critically appraised. I think it's a French film, critically appraised, and it was picked up by Netflix and doing well there. I see it on all the blogs as the top movie to watch this Halloween. So most likely they're getting a lot of streams from that just this Halloween. Happy Death Day. If you're going out this Halloween or day after Halloween, whatever, you want to see a decent slasher film, go and watch Happy Death Day. And one of my things with Happy Death Day is that it was a good slasher movie. Because why? If it fulfilled a lot of the tropes associated with a horror, slasher film. That's what made it successful. That's what makes it good for me. Like a Scream movie. Just made it good because it had all the elements of a slasher film. One of those slasher thrillers within the context of the movie. And they didn't have to make this one rated R. They made it PG-13. And so let's see. I'll show you. They have a serial killer. They have a serial killer dressed up in a baby doll face. If that isn't, boom, there's your killer. They established the killer, and this guy keeps showing up because why? She encounters him every day because every day this thing kills her, unless she kills herself. And what I liked about this is that she keeps killing herself, but then she feels the ramifications of doing so afterwards because her body starts dying. She starts harming her body by killing herself. She starts feeling it. So I thought that was a great addition to this story, for this groundhouse story. And murder victims. Who's the murder victim? Who gets killed every day? Boom. They didn't have to kill like a lot of people. This slasher, this serial killer wasn't out for just everyone. It was out for her. And so who does it kill every day? It kills her. So you have victims, you have bodies, but it's just her body being killed, being slashed up each and every time. And then, you have the survivor, which is her. This one character, this girl in this film, she represented all the elements. She was the murder victim and she was the survivor. Now, you have a Debbie Downer in the movie, who is always that one person's on the side like, oh, woe is me. Especially this movie, because this was based around a sorority girl who is just a self-centered mess. She only cares about herself. And in her Groundhog Day-ism, she has to try to find out who amongst the crowd of people claiming to be her friends hates her the most to want to kill her. So this one girl, this sorority girl, she is the character. She is the penultimate horror movie trope, as she represents all the elements. She's the Debbie Downer. She has a Debbie Downer in her life. She's the survivor. She's the final girl, the girl who at the end comes out of this with a sense of fulfillment. So this movie was just, she has there was a context within everything was relied upon. So every day she died, you figure out, you try to piece together who was actually killing her. So she has to go into her storyline and figure out what's her deal. Why would somebody want to kill her? And realize that, she is a shit horrible person and that she does not treat people well. So I like this. So she has a redemption quality as well. So this character is everything. And they did it with one character, and they had, a couple of locations that they had to film in, and they made this movie for less, and they're scored big. So, and it was rather entertaining. It's one of those where you sleep on it. You think, okay, this movie is going to be crap. Because first of all, it's PG-13. But it is a good horror movie. Slasher film. That's why I like that one so much. Okay, so now we're going to go to my feature flick of 2017. The one I wanted to revisit this year. Usually it's like either a Nightmare on Elm Street movie or a Jason movie. Last year we did Halloween. But this year I should have done a Halloween, but I didn't do a Halloween. So I did Jason 7. Jason 7 is one of my favorite Jasons or favorite horror movies. Now, okay, in my defense, I have to really set the stage for you. I said this is my favorite movie of a favorite Friday the 13th movie. And it dawned on me last night. I'm like, okay, why did I like this movie so much? And I started thinking, like, and I realized why. As a young man of like 11 or so, I think it was like 11 or 12. You start to realize, you start to come into yourself, and you start thinking about things like, sexuality. And I realized that I didn't really necessarily like horror movies. I wasn't a horror movie fan. Not at the least. But I did like movies. And so, so I realized that after watching this film, and I did this to another movie, I can't remember why, or maybe this is the one I told him about. It's like, I watched this movie because it was so much sex in it. And I think that's why I was so prone to it. And I think I would watch it and just try to, like, I like horror movies, but naturally, really, I just like all the sex. There was so much sex going on in this movie. Every once in a while they show some nudity. They had one real nude scene with the lady. But they had sex in this movie. And I remember rewinding that one part where the girl got naked like a few times. Like, I'm going to just watch this until somebody comes in and I'll start watching it. But I just wanted to see like naked women. So I really did watch slasher movies for that reason, but I was not a horror movie fan. When my dad would put on like The Fly or Phantasm or Hellraiser, any of those movies, J-Dog would be out. I'm not in the room because I wasn't going to watch that stuff because I was freaked out by it. But I didn't like horror movies, but I did like nudity. So that's the reason why I watched and I enjoyed a lot of these films. But when I came across this one was cool because the person in there was able to fight back. She was able to fight back and defend herself against Jason. So, I'll set the context for you. This girl, you open up the scene, the movie, with this young girl overhears her parents fighting, and then she hears a couple of slaps, my dad put hands on moms, things like that, domestic violence, bad. And so she runs out, she gets out on the boat, and they're at Crystal Lake, If you don't know anything about Jason, Crystal Lake is where he spawned. That's where this entire saga spawned. All of his spinoffs and stuff. So he's there, and so she dies, and so she basically has telekinetic powers, and she kind of kills her father. Okay, so he dies, and so now that was like 20 years before, or 12, 15 years before. She comes back because this guy, she's supposed to be in treatment. So she comes back and she accidentally revives Jason. Brings him back to the surface. And so because of her, everyone at this camp dies. All these teens, all these young adults, they're all dead because of her. Because, she thought that, she was resurrecting her father. But, no. It was Jason sitting down there drowning in he was dead. Basically. He was dead. But she awakened him, and then he went on a killing murder spree. But yeah, it's the telekinetic power things, because I was a big fan of Stephen King's Firestarter. Didn't even know he wrote that, but I love that movie. So this movie kind of reminded me of that, because she was just going at Jason like doing her thing with her mind powers, and that was just so cool. And she was just fighting back against this man. But upon watching it again, revisiting it after years, many years, I'm thinking, was Jason just sweet on this girl? Her name is Tina. Was Jason sweet on Tina? Because he just kept going after her. It didn't seem like he wanted to kill her until, she really started trying to kill him. But it seemed like when she first resurrected him, that when he stared at her through that creepy ass mask, that he was like kind of longing after her. If you put that Dream Weaver, you put a song in that moment, I bet you could totally put it into context that he was just obsessed with her. And to get to her, he had to kill and mow through everybody. And all he wanted to do was get a little love, She saved him from his watery grave. And so he wanted to just repair. He was enamored. So he comes out the water, and he's trying to get to it, but he can't find it because he's still a little confused, because he's been in the water for about 12 years or so, just drowning, just dead. So he awakens, and he just sees a beautiful girl, and he's like, oh, gosh darn, I'm in love. So he becomes like Pepe Le Pew, and he starts chasing after her, trying to kill her, but she trying to, talk to her, but he can't really talk. So he's trying to get close to her and use his weird little slow language, throwing knives and stuff. But he can't get to her because she's freaked out, and then she starts trying to kill him. And so then he's like, okay, well, she's never going to like me, so I'm just still going to kill her, which is proven to be a little bit more difficult than he supposed, because he doesn't know that she has mind powers. He don't know those things. He never faced it before. And I just thought that was just awesome. Really love this movie. And some things I noted about this movie, though, Jason in his mask, if you listen to this, or you have a good sound system, or you listen to the movie with headphones on, you hear his breathing. It's like, he makes noise, and the breathing sound effect is so evident. It's so clear. It's like, if he makes like a noise or something, or gets hit, it's like, you can hear that. You can hear that echo in his mask. So it's kind of weird. It's like muffled by his mask, but you can hear it. And he was a little bit more vicious this time. And I think as the time, the body count was like high. It was like, 8 people? 7 to 8 people that he killed in this movie? And maybe 11. 2, 4, 6. He killed a lot of people. I think the body count was about 9. And I think we talked about that too in our previous episode last year around this time, our Halloween episodes. But with the body count that high, he was just mowing through fools. But I remember distinctively one great one. One great time, one great kill. It was an awesome kill. I saw him put his hand through somebody. That was cool. But the one that I remember the most was dragging this girl out in a sleeping bag. He drags her out in a sleeping bag, picks up the sleeping bag, just slams her across a damn tree. That was funny. That was so funny. I'm like, dang, Jason ain't nothing to mess with. Damn, Wu-Tang Clan. Jason was great, but but I don't know. That really just made me laugh. So I recommend that one this Halloween. If you just let me see, hold on. No, that's it. Go and watch that one. That's actually a great episode. It's pretty cool. But it's so silly, and know that I was a pervert as a kid. That's Talking with Burritos for this episode. But you're going to have some bonus content coming up with this, that, and other news. I'm going to go through some news articles. And actually, you know what? Just keep this going. I'm not even going to stop. I was going to stop it so it wouldn't be long. But who cares? Let's just keep it rolling. Let's make an extra Uber Halloween creep show. spectacular, talking with burritos. And that was corny, but I said it. So let's go on to that. Let's take a slight break, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, this, that, and other news in the tradition of this segment that was, I think it was a favorite amongst us once upon a time. But I tend to do something like almost every episode. I try to like put in some favorable notes, which are kind of funny. So let's start out with extreme haunted housing. Have you heard of this? Whereas you go into a haunted house, such as McCamey Manor, one of those haunted houses, and you sign a waiver so that the people could do anything to get scared or fright out of you. I mean, they can put hands on you. They can scare you. They can torture you. Can tackle you. They can bond you, put you in bondage. They can tie you up. They can torture you. Anything to get a rise out of you. And the thing is, they don't stop until they feel that you've felt fear, genuine fear of your life and or safety. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not doing anything like that. You put hands on me, I'm going to put hands on you. But again, you have to sign a waiver that you're okay with that and that they can go along with this. And thus far at McCamey Manor, they have like, it's a 24, they have 24,000 people, whatever, signed up for this thing. It's a waiting list of 24,000 people for people who sign up to want to experience true horror. Now, I don't know what that says about them people. Maybe they're thrill seekers. Most of them probably are. But would you do that? I can't even walk through a damn corn maze without, freaking out and wanting to punch somebody. And I recently told somebody that too. He's like, I couldn't do it. I'm going to punch somebody. I'm like, dude, you going through that thing. Why would you put yourself through that and risk being sued for punching someone if you knew going in that, this is not my thing? So you really can't blame them for your dumb ass going inside the haunted house in the first place. I know sometimes they say, oh, it's just a reaction. No. Yes, it was a reaction. However, you knew that you was a chicken shit before you went in there. So once you go in there, then all bets are off. You're there to be scared. And these people are hired or volunteer to scare you. So you can't be going throwing bows on people thinking that this is a Michael Myers movie, because it's not. It's usually just people who, sign up to get paid, or just like Halloween. So keep your hands to yourself unless you go to McCamey Manor and actually have these people put hands on you. They can waterboard you. They can tie you up. They can do anything they want to just to get fear out of you. Now that's what I'm talking about. A true horror movie, a true haunted house. If there's anything that you would want to do, I would do that. Because why, because even, no, I would not want to do that. I'm sorry. I will go through this corn maze that we have out here. I heard that's actually pretty frightening as well. It's the one that Mariah Carey went to. Like, oh man, that had to be like 10, actually when she was actually famous. She's still famous, don't get me wrong, more, popular than I am. But, look, she can't sing that much. She can't do much else, but, wear tight clothes and be old. But whatever. But, yeah, she came out here to Arizona to that corn maze to experience that. And I think, what is it? It was some radio. She was like, oh, don't touch me or something like that. She was trying to act all prissy, going through a maze. Like, don't be Mariah Carey. Don't go through a corn maze or a haunted house if you can't do it. Stay your ass out on the side with me, because I'll be right there with you. We can just talk, chat it up, maybe record a podcast. Okay, number 2. Let's go to the mega structure, Tabby Star. I've talked about this before, and if you guys don't know about it, for about 3 or so years now, maybe longer, but I've known about it about 3 years now. There's been this interruption in space. They say this distant star keeps flickering, like blah, 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 and they can't make it out. And so, you know how a star is, and they say it's a huge star, and that it keeps flickering, and they think that either that something is most likely is possibly, there's this theory that there's a mega structure blocking the star that comes blocking the star, or that's blocking the star intermittently, I think. And so this gives rise to the theory that this is an alien structure, because it's moving in front of this thing intermittently, and or there's someone out there trying to contact us via this type of signal. Some are saying, I'm not saying scientists are, some theorists are saying that the Tabby star, which, this mysteriously dimming star that kind of just goes and that comes in and out and in and out of view, distributing light, the light is actually blocked intermittently. Well, they say that it's possible that it could be an alien civilization that's capable of building a Dyson sphere megastructure around it. And if you don't know what a Dyson sphere is, it's a I don't like that one. Let's go back to the other one. No. That this bird, or they claiming a bird, hit the Oklahoma City Thunder jet on the way from wherever they were going. But if you look at the front of this plane, it's got a big old dent in it. It's like, this is a plane, this is a jet, and it has to carry 50 or so people on it. But this thing is so dented in the front of it that it looks like it wasn't just hit by a bird. And plus, if you look closely, I don't see any blood. I don't see any feathers. I've seen movies where, in certain things where they say that, you get feathers caught in there or something like that, or it just struck the bird, kept going. I'm thinking something else. I'm thinking that they hit maybe a drone, or they could have hit a pterodactyl. I don't know, but there was something else up in that sky, and it wasn't no damn bird, unless it's a damn big old prehistoric bird. I'm telling you. But look at the pictures of that thing. The thing is huge. It's a big old dent inside in front of a plane. That's just weird. Now let's go to this one. A ghost ship washes a shore full of mannequins. Now, if we can live our dream together, I don't know the song. Nothing gonna stop us now. Think about that song as they cruising on the cruise ship. Thinking about mannequin. So, and mannequins can tell no tale. So this is a pirate ship of mannequins. Think about the freaking horror of that. If you come upon a ship and these things, they come ashore, but what if they're alive out there on the ocean? They come alive on the ocean, but now that they're ashore and they're found, they just they go into their frozen state like mannequin, like Kim Cattrall a mannequin. Once somebody else sees them, people lay eyes upon them, they go into their frozen pose. So I don't know, that's just kind of creepy. It could have been just a hoax. Somebody just like, look, I'm just trying to get rid of some mannequins because, man, we're not going to do anything with these things. So let's put them on a boat and put them out ashore. That'd be interesting. So let's see how far they go. So they put these mannequins out on a boat, but they didn't know these mannequins were alive. So they're partying up like, living like a rock star until their cells break. And then they're like, oh, cool. There's nowhere else to go. And then they drift ashore, and now they're frozen in time forever because now people are looking upon them like, hey, look, mannequins, this is weird. And or, we just leave them there and they can live out the rest of their days as mannequins and come alive at night and then party up on a boat. See? I got a boat. I'm on a boat, y'all. So that was kind of weird, too. I've been saving these, you guys, so I'm just going to run through them. Now, monkeys scared to death. If you haven't seen this one, in India, they have a picture of all these monkeys just kind of passed out like, ugh. Like if you were just going to just, let's say you were walking, and Pennywise comes out of nowhere and scares the shit out of you. If you don't punch him, and you just scared shitless, and you just faint, and you pass out, your arms are spread out on the concrete and everything. Think about that. Picture that. And now picture monkeys, a group of monkeys just all laid out like that. Well, some authority is saying, actually a vet said that they all died of cardiac arrest, meaning they just had a heart attack. And the villagers around them report that there were lions heard in the area, and that it's possible that tigers gave monkeys a heart attack. So these monkeys are just chilling like, doom, 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 doom. I'm thinking that picture in Madagascar, with the little monkeys. Doom, doom, doom. They just sitting around, they're playing games, one shooting dice and stuff. And they're just chilling. And all of a sudden, the tiger comes around, and the monkeys just pass out. But then I don't even think the tiger was, they said he was nearby. They heard it, but they don't know how close it came. And the monkeys just passed out. Monkeys like, oh my God, I'm just going to pass out. And then they pass out and, they just died because they had a heart attack. That's like being scared shitless. They like lying scared of them monkeys shitless. So they had this vet. He examined them. They thought there was possible poisoning because, monkeys are annoying. They like to steal stuff and steal your food. Just like in the movie Madagascar. And they thought it was possible poisoning. But nope. The vet says that these monkeys died of cardiac arrest. Like all at once. They all just like bloop and died. So you can look at these pictures on talkingwithburritos.com. I'll have the links available for you at talkingwithburritos.com. Yeah, but these monkeys just passed out, had a damn heart attack. That is freaky. It's kind of funny if you think about it, but it's wrong. But it sucks because the monkeys died. Let's go on to what else do we have here? Oh man, get out of there. Oh, okay. What else do we have here? We have a real sock monster. If you go to episode 1 of Talking with Burritos, the current version, episode 1, we have of sock monsters and other trolls. We have and other cryptids. We have a episode where we talk about sock monsters. If you don't know what a sock monster is, a sock monster is something that this phenomenon, this mysterious creature that sneaks into your laundry and steals your socks. Because you're always missing that one damn sock. So it was our theory that the sock monster somehow gets it. Now, this person, these people, so this family, they don't say where they're from, but it's from BBC News, so somewhere overseas. This family calls out this specialist, this charity animal vet person. I don't know. They call him out to the house for an emergency to maybe pick up a lizard that is in their home. And they looking at this lizard. It's like half of its head is like sitting out is exposed from underneath the bed, right? And so they're looking at this thing, and so they think that it's a monster. They think it's a lizard. They think it's a lizard, and so they're going. And so they call someone to help them, a specialist, animal control of sorts. They call this individual to come out. And so this individual investigates. She cautiously approaches the thing and then reaches underneath there and grabs it, and it's a sock. So this is actually their child. The child reported it, and so then the parents and stuff freaked out, and so they called, instead of going in there investing it themselves like little bitches, they called animal control to come and look at this thing that was sitting there. Now I would have just took a shovel to its head, but I'm from old school Arkansas, and that's a lot of people don't do that, and I know animal rights, but it's a lizard, and I don't know what this thing is going to do to me, and it looks big. So it turns out to be a dangy old sock. So basically, and so this lady who was called out there, she's like, yeah, it's just a sock. And, little girl, you probably need to tidy your room a little bit better. In other words, parents, get her to clean her damn room, take away her phone, take away her laptop, take away her computer privileges, internet, everything until she cleans her damn room, because this sock is disgusting. It's all striped and dirty and dingy. And it's actually red. It's like, what animal do you think is red? So I think the stripes on the sock actually, caused panic within the family because they didn't know. They thought, because usually if something's striped, that means it's dangerous. But that was just totally weird. And okay, down in China, if you haven't seen this picture, they find this 60-foot dragon. Okay, this another 60-foot dragon in China. If you've seen this picture, it looks totally ridiculous. Some people are saying it looks like a dragon, but the head of it looks like an antelope, and then it looks just like pieces of other people's carcasses around it, and you got people standing around it. One dude is straddling it, thinking that it's a dragon. I'm thinking this is ridiculous, and I'm starting to hate social media. The return of the poop monster. Apparently, there's something in the damn sewers in North Carolina, and it's not Pennywise. apparently if you see this video, he has this woman. She's a Hispanic woman because she's speaking Spanish, or maybe she's an American speaking Spanish. I don't know, but she's speaking Spanish on a Spanish network, news network, and she's out there, and she's like trying to report on this thing sticking out of the sewer. And so she's approaching it slowly but surely, cautiously. She's approaching this thing, and then you see a little something poke his head out. And it goes back in and retracts back into the sewer drain. It pokes its head out and return its head back into the sewer drain. So it looks kind of weird. I'm trying to like break it apart myself and like trying to magnify it. They'll even supply it, the image, to you, because some people, the headline reads "Alien in North Carolina Sewer." So I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, you can't make it out because the picture is grainy, and when you pull it in, you just see an object. Something stick its head out, fin, body part. Something sticks out and then goes back in. Could have been a cat. I don't know. Dog nose. Don't know. But it's kind of white, slivery, silver. So you don't really know what it is. But people are thinking that, it's an alien. Or, because they're saying it's an alien, but it could be other things. And among one of them is the poop monster. Back in 2015, they discovered these worms. They called tuberflex worms, and better known as sludge or sewer worms. And they're the creature that they actually devour our waste. They reside in polluted manner, organic manner, and they can survive without without all the necessities of a normal organism or a normal animal or creature. And so they reside in the sewers, and they eat our waste. They feed on our waste, which is kind of weird. And it reminds me of this movie I watched a long time ago, which made me for a long time like fear drains. It's called Slugs. It's a D-rated movie, but it's all about killer slugs, and you got people like who are in the sewers or washing dishes, and these things will just come out of the drains and cover them. They were all slivery and slimy. So I'm thinking this is basically what they are. They were tuberflex worms, and just these kind of worms that just live in the sediment. And they eat bacteria and all this other crap underneath. And I'm pretty sure this is not what it is, unless if you really want to think in horror movie terms, those tuberflex worms, are mutated. They become mutated, and so now that little thing sticking its head out is actually a tuberflex worm that has mutated into this massive thing, this human-sized thing. And so it's just trying to, relate, but it's scared of the sun because it's it's underground. It's I forgot that word. Nocturnal. Not nocturnal. That means you sleep in the dark. That means you sleep at night, or you awake during the night. I don't know. It's right there. Whatever. But it likes the dark. It resides in the dark, so it's afraid to come out in light. So that's why it poked its head out and went back in. It ran back in. But the footage stops right there at the thing sticking its head out and then going back, running back into or slithering back into the drain. So you really can't really poke it out. It could have been a Pog from one of the Star Wars movies or the new one. The cute little thing with the little mouth. Could have been that. I don't know. But it does look kind of suspect, or just a kid in the damn drain. Nobody knows because I can't find anything else on it. All I can find is that report. A living gargoyle. I told you people, I've been collecting these. A living gargoyle has been seen flying in Spain. And I only bring this up because let's go back to that Oklahoma City Thunder charter jet and how that dent in there didn't, it looked like it hit stone. And I'm thinking gargoyles and or Mothman, because don't they both reside around some type of stone structure that comes to life and looks man-like, but it's hard and matter, and it floats and most likely if you harm it, it will not bleed. And so that's the only reason why I brought this up. But they say, this man who claims that he woke up at 1 a.m, he sees this thing out there and this big, blocky, hefty torso or front of his body, and it had, being floated away, carried by wings, and it had a smaller tail or lower half. So they're thinking, hey, gargoyle. And that's immediately what they go to. And they ask the man, did you take a picture? He's like, oh, no, I didn't have my phone. Failure, you're an idiot. And so is that story. But I only bring it up because that plane hit something and it wasn't no damn bird. Aliens. Here's another cool one. A marathon man outruns bears. See, okay, brother. Whew. Okay, you're not supposed to do this. Technically, you're not supposed to outrun a bear. But, because, if you give chase and you give yourself and make yourself seem like food, then they're going to chase. That's like dogs and everything else. You're supposed to stand up to them, kind of stare them down, or make yourself seem bigger than you are. But this man is just out there running. And I wonder, he's a marathon runner, so technically he could probably outlast a bear because bears are kind of hefty. And these bears are, black bears. So they're probably not as energetic. I wouldn't think a bear is rather lazy. They don't really want to work for their food. So they see a brother just running like, do. And he kind of came upon them. So I don't know how, I forgot the distance away he was, but he sees it. It's like, all right, there's some bears. So what he does, he just runs. And so I think the bears give chase, because they maybe think that, he wants to play. And plus, his brother was pretty dark. He was darker than me, so they probably thought, hey, this is a bear with some clothes on. Let's go investigate. And so they try to chase the bear. They try to chase the man. They're chasing them down like with their, in their weird little gait. But this dude is on 2 feet, and he's just running. And so he just basically outruns the bears. And, they don't say it, but, he was respectful of their environment. He was like, okay, this marathon runner was like, I'm in their environment, so we have to respect nature for what it is. If you come across it, you're supposed to respect them and get out of their way and let them do them. And that's why I went the other way and I ran. Brother's like, nah, I'm going this way. See you later. But he outran some bears. They were little black bears, but I would have been more impressed if he outran a grizzly. Because if you've seen pictures of grizzly or heard stories, they're actually really fast. Now, let's go to some cryptoids. Cryptoids intro, please.
All right, y'all. This is Dim the Lights. The J-Dog about to get sexy. Click with some cryptoids. Cryptoids. Demons. Vampires.
Blah, blah, blah.
Sock trolls. Yeah.
Give me your shit.
It's time for the cryptoid.
All right, cryptoids. I want to talk about the Bigfoot juice. All right. In North Carolina, this is where this all is stemming from right now. In North Carolina, this woman claims that her Bigfoot juice attracts Bigfoot, apparently. And she has no real proof. She has some proof. Well, her husband works for this organization called Bigfoot 911, where they go out and they go and look and search for Bigfoot. And she developed this juice. And they claim that from her juice making, I don't know how she gets the juice. How does she get that juice? How do you get Bigfoot juice? How do you milk a Bigfoot? Oh, that sounds so gross. But she claims her juice attracts all the Bigfoot to the yard. And there's no claims to this, but, her husband works for this group, and they're claiming, like, oh, this is viable. Her juice does work. So she sells it in her beauty salon. Wish I had a lot of money because I would go travel out there, interview the lady, and put some Bigfoot juice on, like, around the ear, on the wrist and stuff, and go out there and see if I can attract me a Bigfoot lady. Just because I'm curious. Are there more than one, or are there two? And can a man wear it, or is it just for... Well, I guess all of them are men. A lot of them are men who are going out there searching for it. So wouldn't you want to attract a female Bigfoot rather than a male Bigfoot? Because wouldn't that be aggressive? I'm not saying. I'm not saying. That's just kind of weird. But yeah, her Bigfoot juice brings all the little Bigfoot to your yard, apparently. But you want to talk about Bigfoot juice. And I want to go into this next story. Somewhere in Wales no, it was Upper Washington or something. This woman crashes her car. Okay. Which is kind of weird. She crashes her car, but she claims that she crashes her car. And then once she comes home, her husband helps her, comes and gets her. Like, he's worried about her and stuff. He's like, hey, are you okay, honey? And she's like, oh, yes. I was driving along this road and I see a Bigfoot and I crashed my car. And I'm thinking, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that's some bullshit about Bigfoot, because I'm thinking She lying. I'm thinking she was doing something else with another Bigfoot, if you know what I'm saying, in the car with her. And then she crashes the car because she was a little bit preoccupied. She crashes the car. Then she says her and her mate, her cheater, her person, her beau, she's like, oh, what can I tell my husband? And this dude works for Bigfoot 911. So he's like, hey, dude, just tell him that you saw Bigfoot. Everyone around these here parts know about Bigfoot. They'll believe you. Plus, your husband is stupid, so he'll believe anything. So she's like, okay, that sounds right. And so she goes and she tells her husband this, and her husband's so concerned about it that he's like, we should go tell the cops. And so they go down to the police station, and they tell the cops that this woman crashed her car because she saw Bigfoot, and she ran into her car into a tree. And she was distracted by the Bigfoot, and she ran her car into a tree. Now, I'm thinking you just need to go to marriage counseling and or this dude needs to grow some balls and say, that's some bullshit and I know you're cheating on me. This is Talking with Burritos, and that's a wrap, but not a burrito.